Right, hi everyone, I'm James from Trek China, and the first word I have to say is it's been a long time. I would say it's been about a month or so since my last video, and as I can assure you, and you can probably see, there's a good reason behind it. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about where I am today, maybe a little bit about the community where I live, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this unfortunate injury that I've had over the past month and what the prognosis is over the next couple of weeks and months, and then also hopefully when I'll be back in full action and I can do some proper climbing again and show you around the the mountains, the natural scenery of Chongqing and China as a whole. All right, so this area here is the residential community I live, and it's in the Yubei district of Chongqing. I remember a couple of months ago, I filmed another episode in Central Park and I talked about my favourite districts of Chongqing. And overall, I would have to say Yubei is probably the pick of the bunch. I mean, this is a relatively new community here. I think the first apartments were kind of handed over around 2016, 2017. And we bought this place at a very reasonable price. So when we moved in here around late 2017, there was really nothing around this residential complex. So not like today, where we have the line number 5 on the subway system. We're also going to have line number 15 opening either this year or next year. It's going to make getting around that little bit more convenient. We've got this really nice mall, less than a kilometre down the road. Now we've got like nurseries, little supermarkets and things like that. So it's a really nice little area to live in now. A lot of the homeowners are part of a WeChat group here. And I know a lot of them complain a lot about the management committee here. So I suppose on a daily basis, you don't really we don't really feel their presence that much. And they do charge quite a lot by market standards per square metre. But nevertheless, I think overall it is a pretty nice place. And one of the things I really enjoy about it is that come springtime, I do really think they look after the gardens here quite well, and I really love these different varieties of trees, how lush it is. So, and this will last through kind of until the end of the year. And another thing I really like about this place as well is that we kind of have a very contiguous kind of loop track pathway that goes around the entire residential complex, and that is the route I'm going to be following today. In the past, when I've walked around with my Apple Watch on, I think the whole track is about 1.6 kilometres or something like that, and it takes maybe about 20 minutes at my pace to do a full loop. And sometimes in the mornings or the evenings when the weather is nice, I kind of like to come out first thing or before I go to sleep each night, and it's just a really nice way to get a bit of exercise. And as we can see, we have a really nice community here. Now we have lots of kids and toddlers around here, people of all ages. Okay, so at this point I want to talk a bit about the injury I had. Now for this we have to go back to the start of this month. So on the 2nd of April I went on a work trip with some colleagues to a place called Wanzhou. Now Wanzhou is the second largest city in Chongqing municipality, and at the moment it takes about an hour, 10 minutes or so to get there on the high-speed train. The day we left Chongqing, the weather wasn't too bad, but in Wanzhou it was pouring down with rain, and when we got picked up at the train station, we went to this, I'll call it like a hillside next to Wanzhou Airport, and we were there to cover this kind of rare endangered plant species. I think offhand it was called something like the Maiden House fir or something. I'm not quite sure what it is. But we did go into some of the greenhouses there, and they were growing them in these little small plant pots, and they kind of look a little bit like vines to me, and they've got these roundish leaves and all that. And I think the idea is that once they've reached maturity, I guess, or close to it, they want to take them out into the wild, into the countryside, onto the mountainsides and all that, and plant them, and hopefully the number of these plants out in the wild will increase in the future. But anyway, based on previous experience, I kind of went there dressed quite smartly and in my work shoes. Now, if I knew we were going to be climbing a slippery mountain in the pouring rain, yeah, I wouldn't have, been dressed that way. I would have put on some, high grip sports climbing shoes or something like that. Yeah, so around lunchtime that day, I was just preparing to film a scene on camera, and the cameraman requested that I, walk along this set of, slabs by this kind of rocky hillside. And then, just as I was about to speak, my right foot slipped on this piece of moss. My body fell straight backwards, and basically my whole weight fell on my left elbow. Yeah, and I knew from the very second that it hit the ground, that my arm was in a really serious situation. Yeah, so I could feel and I could see that the bones in my forearm and the elbow were all out of place. Yeah, so from this point on, even to the day now, it's been, to be honest, it's been one of the most miserable times of my entire life. But at the same time, there are some positive shards of light that I can reflect on as well. So I really want to kind of bring you the good and the bad of my experiences, and also what it has been like, staying in the hospital system here in China. Yeah, so what basically happened was, we had a company car. Some of the local guys had picked us up, and the car was there handy. So straight away they got me in the car. We went down to one of the local hospitals in Guangzhou. Well, I stayed for maybe about 3 hours or so. I got in there. I managed to take some X-rays, and they told me straight away that it was like kind of a nasty break, kind of right on the elbow joint, and that I was going to need an operation to fix it. After that, the doctors gave me this, pain-killing injection in my left arm, and he kind of, manhandled the bones in my arm, put them back into place, then gave me like a plaster cast with some bandages on it. Took me to like a ward bedroom where I stayed for the next couple of hours. And really, during that time, I just didn't want to go anywhere. I just kind of wanted to stay there, and I was just kind of in a daze, thinking like, this can't have happened to me. My wife, who's from this city, she came straight away on the bullet train, got a taxi to the hospital. And when she arrived, everybody was saying to me that they suggest I come to a big hospital in the main city of Chongqing, because obviously that's where you're going to kind of enjoy the highest level of expertise when it comes to surgery on my elbow. They organised a car, like a driver, to take me and my wife straight to the hospital. And it's one of the big military hospitals in Sharpingba district. And it took about 3.5 hours to drive there. The driver was also really nice. I think normally he works in Guangzhou, but it just happens that he was driving back to the main city, because this happened just before the Qingming festival. That's the traditional tomb sweeping festival in China. He dropped us off at the accident and emergency section at the hospital. But he didn't drive away. He actually parked up the car. He helped us carry a lot of our bags and things like that. And he actually waited there quite a long time, basically, until I was registered at the hospital, and we didn't really need him anymore. All right, so I'll just go over the course of treatment I had then. So I technically checked into the hospital then just after midnight on the 3rd of April. The doctors the next morning, they told me that I would roughly have to wait 9 or 10 days before I can have the operation. And the main reason for that was that my arm, like the muscles, were too swollen. And apparently, if they're too swollen, after they do the operation, it's going to create some issues, with stitching everything back together. So really, over the next 10 days, I was on the IV fluid every day, and they're giving me a lot of this, anti-inflammatory medicine. I think maybe the first or the second morning, I started, doing a set of tests. And these included things like, scanning your organs with ultrasound, taking more X-rays, electrocardiograms. If there was one thing I think they could do a little bit better, then I think, if they could streamline a lot of these processes just to kind of make things, more stress-free for patients and their families, I think that would make things better. So what we had to do is we had to take, 7 tickets for all of the tests at the same time, and then kind of choose strategically, which room am I most likely to be tested the quickest. But no matter how well you time it, there are always going to be like 2 or 3 tests that you end up missing. So I finished those tests, and then on around the 10th day, I had an operation. So the operation went very successfully. The surgeon was a really, really cool guy with about 30 years of clinical experience. I think he told me in the operating theatre before I went into the anaesthetic that maybe a typical operation to fix bones might take 1 to 2 hours, but because this one was kind of like a pulverised fracture, and it was right on the elbow joint, I think he spent the best part of about 5 to 6 hours or something like that. I have no recollection of the operation itself, but I do kind of remember coming around a little bit, outside the operating theatre, and I kind of remember them, pulling out the ventilator tube. I kind of remember this gigantic, pain-killing needle, really, really long, which I think he stuck into my neck or something like that because they needed to manhandle my left arm after the operation. That wasn't much fun, kind of something out of a horror movie. And then really I was kind of in this, special unit, overnight. But the time just went, but the time in this, special care unit went by very quickly. I was still under the anaesthesia, so I was kind of sleeping a couple of hours, maybe waking up for, half an hour there, then I was going back to sleep again. I think after that I stayed about another 5 days or so. And then they allowed me to be discharged, and now I've been home about 5 or 6 days or something like that. I think the biggest issue for me now, apart from the bones recovering, is just that the nerves, I think, are still a little bit damaged because there was the break itself, but also during the operation, I kind of had to change the position of the nerves a little bit. So the nerve's not only very painful, but also, a lot of my arm is still very numb. Okay, so this is the prognosis post-operation. So weeks 1 to 4, I've just got to keep my whole arm still in the sling and in the plaster cast. Weeks 5 to 8, I can take these off if I like, but I'm not to do any lifting at all with my left hand. Then weeks 9 to 12, I can actually start to do a little bit of rehabilitation and some gentle strength exercises, try to improve the movement of my left arm, and then hopefully by the 6th month mark or something like that, I should be more or less back to normal. And then fingers crossed, although I say fingers crossed, I'm not really looking forward to it. But after 1 year, if the bones have healed well enough, then I'll go back into the hospital and have a second operation to have all of these screws and the brackets removed and all that. Okay, so I want to thank you for watching. Do please leave some messages, suggestions. Maybe you have some similar experiences with elbow breaks and all that. So if you can share some of your experiences with me and tell me how well you recovered, I think that could really give me a lot of motivation and hope for the future. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I'll leave it at that for today, and we'll go out for a good episode of Trek China one day real soon. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.